So I'm thinking way down the road.
We need to have, yeah.
So if there's any way that we could obtain that property when you leave and maintain
Do you know, can I move that TV back just a little?
Sure,
Yeah.
We don't need to
it.
cover.
Not a problem.
We need the insects.
Yeah, 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 and closing the shores.
Yeah, another place to plant fernal trees too.
But you lost a decoration. You lost a decoration.
Plugging away at it, talking about
Yeah,
native plants.
yeah.
We talked at the end of the story today, just a tiny bit about this. And we're probably in the Pontiac also. Mary put this list together.
It's all about.
Keystone species.
Oh, yeah.
When I talk about existential, existential is the key word.
Does exist.
It's the systematic study of existence. And when you look at what an animal does, it's way more important than it is because you find out.
It's just feeling really.
Not everyone is created.
Good morning
Yeah,
and
that's
welcome
that
to
old
the
saying
UU
about
service.
people live at the top of
Enjoy.
an airplane.
Yes.
And it'll keep flying. You get to that one critical, and the world is.
Well, we're learning that some of the birds are way more important than others. And those are the ones to focus on.
So, I changed position. Jeff Lipsey, our new president, our new executive director, is growing white oaks and acorns because we'd like to give away more oak trees.
Yeah.
Because they're important. They grow.
You don't see a lot of white oaks
We
here
have,
on the peninsula.
we are infested with white oaks.
Hey, hi, Nick.
Guys,
Good to see you.
let you two in here.
They
I
almost.
love the talk you gave with 21, the wolf.
Oh,
I wrote a little note for you about that a while back. I don't know if it made it.
no, I never saw it.
But I thought that little talk was just amazing. And it proves something. I had a bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses come on my door. I wanted to think about it. I said, sure, please. And they started
I
explaining.
know we're Methodists.
And they came some solution, and he thought he had the answers. I said, absolutely. Good question. Yes. And I said, not just among humans. Wolves are known for that. Dolphins. I mean, that is huge. And why? Because they're social.
We're not talking about that. Did you know that bumblebees play? What? Yeah, bumblebees play.
It came into our
That's
email.
great.
Okay.
Now, this
I'll
one
forward
is
it.
all
All right, yeah.
Bumblebees were given a choice: go left for food, go right for the little ball plays. Almost all went to the right, and a whole bunch of them jumped on and rolled them around and rolled over.
There's a website called Nice News,
Yeah.
and it's worth it.
Can you imagine nice news?
Yeah.
And this was under Nice News.
I like it.
But I can't. Isn't that just so neat?
Yes. But I really got a kick out of it. I was getting all out-of-line when I was reading about 21.
21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad you're here. We'll
Yeah.
get talk back, but our granddaughter does an aerobics class at noon on Sunday.
Yes.
She has to leave and
Yeah.
belly down.
Oh, okay.
Well,
And how old is your granddaughter?
24.
Oh, okay.
our granddaughter wouldn't be
Just
quite
turned
at
4.
that stage. She's just 4.
But grandma, next year she's gonna turn 5. That's what she told me, so yeah.
They always want to be old.
Yeah.
Like to go the other way, but physically it's not.
Yeah, there you go.
Now you have to wonder how many other girls go play. Not but a bunch of them.
But you see, just a quick little, in that regard, Mary and I went back to San Juan Mountain many years ago. I mean, way before kids. Not really
Yeah.
could do that. Well, I went out one evening, we went out I used to love that people had my job. But when I was on vacation, I guess. And you know, when we went to these restaurants, and went and the deer jumped straight up in the air and landed again and looked at him and bent over. And spinning around circles, farting like crazy. And jumped again, came over, and two species messing with each other. I thought, it's a lagomorph, which is what rabbit is. It's a little family, small and stubby ears.
Yeah.
They live above the line, and they don't migrate. They have to cut and store unless they grow. They'll have to all winter long. Yeah, yeah.
It's an interesting. I'm really
They're in trouble because as the earth warms, you can only go up so far. Then you run out of real estate. Yeah, no, they're gonna be seriously. Although there is a population known now down much lower than anybody thought picos could survive. But most picos have very low heat tolerance. About 85%. But there's one population that's like 60 something.
You know, I wonder if ecotech. I was talking to a fellow about some of the trees that are being found.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna take that species and put some of the species, would you take the ones farthest north? The guy said, no, you go to the middle of the species. There are more ecotypes among them. I don't need. Oh, hey, join the club. Join the club. The more I learn, the more I know I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the end of education is knowledge. It's humility.
Oh, boy. Look at that one tree.
Oh, I'm gonna print that on my forehead.
I've seen so many examples of
Yeah.
quote worded.
Yeah.
You know, there's a saying that's loosely has something to do with that. If you come out of a history class feeling proud and happy, you have not learned history. Somehow it's relevant.
Wow. How lovely. Thank you, Roy, for joining us today and sharing your talents. And good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Door County. My name is Cindy Nelson, and it is my privilege to welcome you and to be your service leader today. And a warm welcome to members, friends, visitors who may be with us in spirit but joining us from afar. Please join me in welcoming each other today. Your part, it's in the order of service, if you will open that. It's a simple line. It says, "You are beloved and you are welcome here." Try it. You are beloved and you are welcome here. Whether tears have fallen from your eyes this past week or gleeful laughter has spilled out of your smiling mouths, you are beloved and you are welcome here. Whether you are feeling brave or brokenhearted, defiant or defeated, fearsome or fearful, you are beloved and you are welcome here. Whether you have untold stories buried deep inside or stories that have been forced beyond the edges of comfort, you are beloved and you are welcome here. Whether you have made promises, broken promises, or are renewing your promises, you are beloved and you are welcome here. Whatever is in your heart, however it is with your soul in this moment, you are beloved and you are welcome here. In this space of welcome and acceptance, commitment and recommitment, of covenant and of connection, you are beloved and you are welcome here. Thank you. It's been our practice to invite visitors to stand and introduce yourselves if you are comfortable doing so. We are certainly delighted to have you with us. Do we have some visitors today that would care to stand?
Hi, I'm Julie. This is my partner, Mike, and we are members of the Appleton Church and came up to celebrate my birthday, which is tomorrow, and we're delighted to be here. Thank you for the hospitality.
Happy birthday. Yes, welcome Julie and Mike, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Few minor housekeeping details. Please raise your hand if at any time the sound system, if you're having trouble hearing us, Dave will fix it for you. Also, please turn off any cell phone devices that make noise that might interrupt our service. At this time, if there are any announcements for the good of the fellowship, Carol has the mic and will bring it to you. Please raise your hand and introduce yourself so that our friends at home can know who is speaking.
This is Meg Ziegelman, and I have two announcements. We did thank the persons who brought the Christmas tree, and we thank those who decorated the Christmas tree. And the only person we have left to thank is Nancy Raffel, who donated the tree.
Thank you, Nancy.
And the second one is from the Environmental Justice Team. By now, you've all gotten your email asking for your support for us to install solar panels in our backyard here. We kind of on the team think it's a no-brainer. We hope that you do too. We'll remind you that we're asking for donations to be in by December 31 because we don't want this to be, you don't want to be hearing us every week for 6 weeks. We want it to be done quickly, and hopefully you'll be behind us on it. Thank you.
Any other announcements?
I just have a question for you, Meg. Wasn't it the pledge for donations by December 31st? Or you want the money?
Thank you. It's the
Pledge.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
So if you did not hear that, that is the pledge for donations so that that team knows how much they have to work with, not the actual cash, although we take that too.
The backstory on the tree is that it was grown out in Moonlight Bay 10 years ago as a little sapling Bob transplanted it to what is now our lot line in town. And so when it got too big this year, it came here, and I'm just so glad that it traveled like that. So,
Thank you, Nancy, for the backstory. Any other announcements? Thank you. Let's light our chalice and begin our service with words from the Reverend Paul Sprecher. We light this chalice for the web of life which sustains us, for the sacred circle of life in which we have our being, for the earth, the sky, above and below, and for our Mother Earth, and for the mysteries that surround us. Please stand as you are able to say the unison affirmation, to sing the doxology, and then to remain standing as we sing hymn number 83. We gather together to seek knowledge and wisdom, to explore freely the vast reaches of mind and spirit, to celebrate within a caring community those truths, ancient and modern, which give meaning and direction to our lives. Hymn number 83. now to share our personal joys and concerns, an integral part of who we are as a community. Together, we share the happiness so that we may rejoice with each other, and the sorrow because together we can lessen the burden. Again, Carol has the mic. Joys and concerns.
Hi, Karen here. I just got a call yesterday from our oldest granddaughter, who is part Ho-Chunk, that she is engaged to a guy that she met in recovery 5 years ago. They were both heroin addicts, and they have turned their lives around.
That is nice news.
I'm Tom Schroeder, and I hate to be redundant, but Hank Wolt said this about 6 weeks ago. Hey, I'm glad to be back. And I was also very impressed and happy with the celebration of the lives of my two dear friends, Valerie and Toby, yesterday.
Anyone else?
Well, it seems like recovery is the theme of the day. My name is Susan, and a year ago this week, I was hospitalized with some pretty grim diagnoses, and it's been quite a year. But on behalf of Catherine and my family, I just want to express my appreciation again to this congregation for supporting me and loving me and continuing to care for me as I walk this journey. It's so good to be here today.
Anybody else?
I think this might be a good time to welcome Dale Goodner back. Just to say hello, you don't have to come up yet. He claims he missed us all those years of the pandemic, so he's been back. This is his second time this year, but we are very happy to have him. As you read on the bio, on the front of the order of service, you're aware that Dale has spent his days, his career as a naturalist. But with visiting him, I discovered his real calling as a member of the Bunkhouse Buckaroos. Now, what in heck is the Bunkhouse Buckaroos? Well, please ask him for more information later. But for now, know that he performed old-time cowboy songs with two other naturalists, yodeling his way across central Illinois. So please join us for the talk back. I'm not sure it will be spoken or yodeled.
It's hard to say.
So we are very happy that you are with us. That talk back will take place 10 to 15 minutes after the service is over. Go get your cup of coffee or your cup of tea and then join us over here. And we will have talk back till about 11:45. Now it is time for our offering, contributing as we can to sustain our fellowship and the works that we believe in. Thank you, as always, for your generosity. Please take a moment of quiet to center yourselves so that we might be open to the message that Dale has prepared for us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What a beautiful day. Which it is. No problem with heat stroke today, I trust. Back in Peoria, where I used to work, the Nature Center consisted of about 700 acres of oak hickory forest. As many of you know, Peoria is located midway between Chicago and St. Louis, right along the river. That meant hills. And we took a lot of kids back there on nature hikes back throughout. The place was big enough so you could literally walk out in the country and still be in Peoria, in town. But every once in a while, I'd hear from the kids, how come there aren't any animals? Well, around wintertime, we had programs we did, we call it in school, whatever. Programs on a variety of things. And sometimes when I go into school, I take this out and I say, I want you to pretend that this is an animal. As you approach an animal, what is she going to do? Do what? Find a place to hide so that you, the potential predator, thinks that she is gone. And so, but guess what? Just after you walk on down the trail a certain amount, right where you just were, he wasn't gone at all. He was there the whole time. So, the existential fox. We had our kids at an outdoor zoo not many years ago when they were small, and the label on the fence said red fox. It's a bushy-tailed mammal. Isolated from its ecological context, it languished, ignoring us humans. We had taken our kids to visit an outdoor zoo, but right beneath the label, sitting subtly beside my shoe, on our wood chip trail was a small dark brown dropping, pointed, with hair fibers, barely visible bone shards. Here was tangible evidence from the previous night. From what I could see, nobody noticed. This caged red fox had had a secret visitor. It was almost as if the label applied to two entirely different entities. Inside the fence was an incarcerated critter we call a fox. Outside the enclosure, an invisible visitor, known only by clues left behind. An existential fox. A label identifying an animal by name is useful, but in the enormous literature of life, it's just a word. It doesn't convey a sense of the critter's place in the big picture. We tend to view things in isolation, rarely considering the implications of our actions, whether spraying toxins or what have you. The title Existential Fox implies a broader focus than just providing a critter's name. According to the German philosopher Martin Heidegger, existentialism is simply the systematic study of existence. Identifying evidence of behaviors, for example, helps us relate to the subtleties of the natural world. While I was conducting a nature hike for a 5th grade class a long time ago, the kids were curious, finding a lot of stuff. One girl wanted to know what kind of cocoon she had discovered along the trail near the prairie. It was white, almost 4 inches long, chalky looking. This is sometimes thought of as an interpretive moment. I said, good question. So, holding it in my hand so all could see, I started picking it apart. The fur in it looked like rabbit, as did a shard of claw. There was some chitin that appeared to be from a grasshopper, along with some seed hulls, and then something truly amazing. It was a tiny jaw bone from a shrew. Now, pointing at those miniature sharp Cujo teeth, I asked what this smaller than a mouse critter might have preferred for lunch. The answer was meat. Apparently, judging by the seed hulls, the fox also ate grass. This was definitely not a cocoon. So, what was it? They knew, but they didn't want to say it in front of the class, particularly since I was handling this thing. It had been drying in the sun for a long time and was bleached white and dry as dust. Whether you call it a scat, dropping, poop, feces, it reveals much. Approximate size of the critter that left it. Some preferred menu items. Even relative health. Thanks to that fox scat, we also learned there are shrews in this wood. We can learn a lot about animals without actually seeing them. In the barren, bleak midwinter woods, a fox usually appears not as a reddish mammal, but simply as a trail in the snow no more than 3 1/4 inches wide. More or less straight lines with abrupt turns. Each paw print has on its heel a ridge that goes perpendicular. You can always identify a fox if you get a clear print, which doesn't happen very often. But that's, or it may also be a pungent skunk-like odor on a winter breeze. Pay attention, and your nose lets you know when you're passing through a fox's territory. Learning to observe properly, like any art, takes curiosity, patience, and practice. The practice of exploring pristine wild areas provides experience and sometimes even magic. As Wendell Berry put it so aptly, quote, "Unexpected wonders happen not on schedule or when you expect or want them to happen, but if you keep hanging around, they do happen." I can attest to this. While wandering up a dry creek bed through a forest in late spring, I was stopped in my tracks by the sudden certainty that I was being watched. I even knew where my observer was. Slowly I turned and looked to my left, and there, right where I'd expected on the slope, 4 young fox kits were sitting staring at me, their ears perked up like furry radar dishes. They were just about 40 yards distant near their den. The treasure I found in that creek was way better than just another artifact or fossil. It's an intriguing mystery. How could I have possibly known I was being watched? And how did the exact location transmit so clearly? Whether dealing with friends or family or kids, how many of you have experienced that sixth sense? Almost everybody. It's amazing, isn't it? Having heard several theories about this sort of thing, there's only one that makes sense to me. It's from the Bard himself. William Shakespeare used his character Hamlet to suggest that human knowledge is limited. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. We have a lot to learn. Wendell Berry elaborated, quote, "We have lived our lives by the assumption that what is good for us would be good for the world. We have been wrong. We must change our lives so that it will be possible to live by the contrary assumption that what is good for the world will be good for us. And that requires that we make an effort to know the world and learn what is good for it." In 1969, there was a zoologist named Dr. Robert Payne, University of Washington, conducted an odd but important experiment. At low tide, he periodically removed sea stars from a huge rock stack off the Oregon coast and tossed them into the ocean. To his surprise, he observed the gradual collapse of the diverse community of flora and fauna that had occupied that massive rock. Without sea stars, it morphed into a monoculture of mussels. Dr. Payne had devised a clever experiment and discovered something hidden in plain sight. Some species have huge ecological clout. Turns out, by controlling the population of such things as mussels, the predatory sea stars are crucial to maintaining diversity on rock stacks along the Oregon coast. He coined a new term, keystone species, to describe the sea star's importance. Just as the keystone stabilizes an arch, so too a keystone species maintains ecological stability. No small feat. In other words, this is a species that has disproportionately large effect on its natural environment relative to its abundance. Author J.A. Baker, in his book Peregrine, said, quote, "The hardest thing of all to see is what is really there." Early in the 20th century, wolves had been extirpated from most of the lower 48 states, with little thought about how this could reverberate. In January of 1995, despite a certain amount of protest, wolves were reintroduced into Yellowstone National Park. This marked the beginning of one of the most successful wildlife reintroduction programs in the U.S. Thank you, Dick, for the talk you gave on that topic. Elk had been leisurely strolling around along the Yellowstone River, feeding on vegetation. Besides reducing elk numbers, the wolves also disrupted their behavior. Instead of hanging out along the river and feeding, they dispersed. Plant communities adjacent to the Yellowstone River immediately began to recover from overbrowsing. This led to a rebound in animal diversity from insects to birds to beavers. Wolves are a keystone species. Who knew? During the 19th century, sea otters along the west coast were prized for their fur, therefore hunted to the very brink of extinction. Around 1900, they were considered extinct. But in 1911, a few remaining sea otters had been discovered. Steps were taken to protect them from further harvest, legislation, what have you. Turns out sea otters feed on urchins. Sea urchins feed on kelp. In the absence of sea otters, urchins had wiped out large portions of the kelp forest along the entire coast from California all the way to the Aleutians, which in turn led to the loss of habitat for countless species, such as a wide array of fish, snails, octopuses, seals, sea lions, and on and on and on. You can imagine the paucity of animals that caused. As the otters' numbers have been recovering, and I stress recovering, it's still going on. It took a long time. The kelp forest is recovering. Sea otters are another keystone species. That's existentialism. Not what it is, what it does. Today, as we learn more about ecology, numerous keystone species have been identified. Hummingbirds, African elephants, krill, oak trees, African lions, saguaro cacti, woodpeckers, grizzly bears, sharks. By the way, Mary has compiled a list of some keystone species that are highly recommended when you're gardening, that can go into your landscape because they're so incredibly important to butterfly and moth larvae, which sustain our birds. That list is available here. Come back after the word and we'll talk about it. Red foxes are considered a keystone species within their natural range. Small rodents are very good at making rodents. Foxes are very good at keeping rodents from becoming overly prolific. For the sake of posterity, we need to join this list of keystone species. Trouble is, historically, when humans move into an area, there is general loss of diversity. This results from continuous growth of our populations, which consume habitats for agriculture, building, fuel, paving, mining, grazing, logging, etc. We function as the antithesis of a keystone species, but I like to think of the people who moved to protect sea otters and those who reestablished wolves in Yellowstone, despite local opposition, as keystone individuals. At Green Bay West High School in the mid-60s, I was one of a couple of students from each biology class selected to join other biology students from throughout the area. We were given an opportunity to volunteer for a summer of conservation work and learning. My uncles weren't pleased that I was volunteering. I should have been making money. I get it. But it was a very special and valuable experience, particularly for us aspiring conservationists, not to be confused with conservatives. One week we learned how to use a Biltmore stick to estimate the amount of board feet available in a woodlot. Unfortunately, this is how forests too often become dollarable. But judging the value of a forest this way is like basing the value of an original Van Gogh on the estimated price of paints. Pulitzer Prize-winning author Richard Powers suggested an interesting alternative to our commodity view of a forest. Quote, "There are no individuals. There aren't even separate species. Everything in the forest is the forest. Competition is not separable from endless flavors of cooperation. Trees fight no more than do the leaves on a single tree. Forests have much to teach us. Imagine endless flavors of cooperation among diverse humans in a global community." Powers also pointed out, quote, "Science is not about control. It is about cultivating a perpetual condition of wonder in the face of something that forever grows one step richer and subtler than our latest theory about it. It is about reverence, not mastery." Unquote. It's been said that in a single spoonful of living soil, there are far more tiny critters, tens of billions, than there are people on the earth, about 8 billion. Imagine that number of spoons of life in that upper layer of soil over millions of acres. You begin to comprehend the vast, impenetrable ocean of invisible life that exists all around us, most of which has yet to be described by science. This complex biodiversity produces what are known as ecosystem services, such as clean air, water, clean water, living soil, pollination, recycling, flood control, natural beauty, and atmospheric buffering. Conservation focuses on these vital services, so incredibly important to all of us. We're at a critical point in history. It's predicted that by the end of this century, we will witness the extinction of 1 million species. How many species are there? Maybe 10 million?
It depends who you consult.
There's the answer. Dr. Doug Tallamy, entomologist at the University of Delaware, has a practical suggestion as to how we can all prevent this catastrophic scenario, and I emphasize catastrophic. Quote, "It's important to use keystone plants in our home landscapes. Some great examples just among trees: oak, cherry, willow, birch, aspen, and maple. Native, that is. Oak supports just a bur oak, supports over 500 species of moth and butterfly larvae, so critical to our birds. That's what they feed their young. That's where all that nutrition comes from. Exotics such as Japanese maple, ginkgo, Norway maple support almost nothing. They're preferred in landscapes because there are no holes in the leaves. Our insects aren't adapted to exotic toxins. You know, did you know chickadees can read? When a chickadee passes through a tree, they can tell by looking at the holes in the leaves, this is a diner. They stay there. No lack of holes, they just keep going. Not a diner. So we should avoid these exotics for the sake of our birds. And certainly the wonderful diversity of insects that we still have. By the way, there's something that they call an arthropocalypse going on. Insects are dying all over the world. And we know why. We can change it. That's the positive thing about being the cause. You can also be the solution. According to Talamy, quote, gardening is like cooking. It is tempting to cook only with the goal of achieving great taste, with no thought of healthy eating. Similarly, it is tempting to garden only for beauty without regard to the many ecological roles our landscapes must perform. All too often, such narrow gardening goals result in landscapes so low in ecological function that it actually drains the vitality from surrounding ecosystems. Talamy points out, quote, in terms of biological diversity, a lawn is the least productive of our plantings. Yet it is the default landscaping practice in most spaces. Maintaining our lawns in their prestigious weed-free states has become a toxic undertaking. 40% of the chemicals used by the lawn care industry are banned in Europe because they are carcinogens. When we bought our house in Algoma, what?
12 years ago.
I forget. We decided to morph the macabre, monotonous, mundane, mowed lawn monoculture, how's that? Into habitat. We tend to follow the rule of thumb in landscape gardening, 70% native, 30% other. We've put in hundreds of plants. We use no herbicides, pesticides, or fertilizers. Our hummingbird seed nestlings eat only organic free-range spiders. We still have some limited lawn, but Mary has enhanced that with clover, nitrogen fixer. And by the way, I like dandelions. We have a lot of them, much to our neighbor's chagrin. By the way, if you're going through Algoma, and you know where the Algoma Beach Motel is, if you look up the hill, we're at the top of the hill right there, the 1 yard that has vegetation is ours. All the other ones are scalped. We are where the dragonflies hang out. We now share a maturing array of plants with a growing diversity of critters such as toads, nesting catbirds, song sparrows. We've even seen a fox. This past year, we started noticing fireflies. Lawn toxins kill them. So it went, and to see the first ones after 10 years, it was great. Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the founders of existentialism, had a term, Übermensch. Quote, an unconventional creator of values, a joyous, free spirit, and one who embraces the earth instead of pining away for heaven. I love that quote. So the message is, be an Übermensch. Plant keystone trees, shrubs, flowers. All of us could be keystone individuals, all of us. The future is ours to create. Happy trails.
Thank you, Dale. It was educational, but also entertaining. And you're going to show us how you do this?
No.
I hope that many of you will be able to join us for the talk back, but if not, I am going to take a copy of what Mary will give out at the talk back and ask Sarah to attach it to the e-blast this week so that everyone will be able to have it. Okay? Please stand if you are able for hymn number 175. Let us close our service with words from Reverend Leslie Takahashi. O source of life, we are grateful for your consistency, expressed in tree rings and rock formations, the half-life of stars and the depths of oceans, and in the gentle, persistent spinning of our planet. Remind us of the constancy you need from us as well, to temper our needs to fit within your limitations, to suppress our desires so your life forces can persist. In this day, may we reconnect to our life-giving, breath-freeing connection with you. And in doing so, may we be reminded of the changes we must pursue to make a commitment to our planet, our everyday devotion. Coffee and tea
Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you enjoyed it. With a little luck, you can join us in a few minutes and share the talk back on Zoom.